Hey guys, morning.
Hello. How's volume check? Volume check.
Microphone check. 1 2 1 2.
We're good.
Can I get some snare drum?
Snare drum?
No? Okay.
No, there's no snare drum today, buddy.
You guys got to put some pillows in that room.
Pillows?
It's a little bouncy, but that's okay. Wait, Chris Hendricks gave us the triple check. We're good.
All right.
Do you remember way back when he was our sound guy?
That's right. When we first started, for my loud bellowing voice.
So, how are you?
I'm good, Pat. It was good to see you the other day, man.
Yeah.
That was like the time I saw you in a long time in person.
So we used to have a rule of no preamble conversations before we did these things, and we sort of cheated the other day, but this is a remarkable time in our industry, so I thought it's worth a preamble chat, right?
Agreed. And it's funny. I think you said it. I've said it. I was just talking to my assistant about it, and the word keeps coming around: the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
We're living
that song? Wild Wild West. Remember back? That was back in high school.
Downtown, 129th Street.
So that's awesome. So very quickly, or not very quickly, we have a special guest. We're going to have him come on in about 10, 12 minutes or so. And so he's a great guy, first and foremost.
Yes.
Him and his wife and his lovely 3 kids have been looking for a house for, I want to say about a year. He's gone through it, everything, all directions. They've lost out in a lot of competition. He's also a former realtor. His dad's a realtor. So he's got sort of all these great perspectives around the table. So we're going to chat with him in about 10 minutes or so. His name's Nick Mirka. If you know him, you love him because he's a great guy. His Instagram's always super positive and fun and entertaining. So we're going to chat with him first, but I thought it'd be good just to do a synopsis of where we're at and why we're in this Wild West. What do you see going on? And then I can chime in.
Well, what I see going on is definitely demand increasing. There is definitely increasing demand. We've got a little more demand than we've had in the past. Obviously got through summer. Demand, people took a timeout. Also, sellers took a timeout. We can agree we had a nice surge of inventory come September. The listings were looking pretty good. But also, too, those listings got gobbled up pretty quickly, showing that, again, yes, there's strong demand. Challenge is this: we live in Canada. Who wants to sell their house in the winter? Not many. So we are going to be going into a winter of low inventory with this strong demand. They just announced interest rates will remain the same for the time being. But with the announcement of also interest rates going to be rising next year, is that playing into the psychology of investors and first-time home buyers right now, saying, hey, let's rush, let's get in while we can with these nice low rates? I mean, at the end of the day, the rates aren't going to skyrocket, but they are anticipating that by spring there will be a rate increase. And I don't think that will really have a bearing on spring quite yet, because those who can afford to buy will buy, and a lot of people are buying houses with equity from their current homes. So, so that's kind of the synopsis. We're low inventory and demand is increasing.
So it's funny. I'm a bit of a numbers guy, and you're so busy that you have a really good handle on the market just from your day-to-day experience, right? But the numbers back up. The numbers always back up what you say. And if I was to look at it in a nutshell, it is this: we had, and it was great. We've been doing these monthly chats, right? Because we've been able to talk about what's going on a monthly basis. We have this sort of historical record now. But back when we were talking in March and April, we had the record-setting all-time number of homes sold ever, destroyed all previous records. So of course everything settled down in May and June. Like you just said, July and August were sleepy because we could all go away, right? Real estate went tick, 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 tick down the list of priorities. And September improved, but it only felt better because July and August were so weak. So July and August stunk the joint out as far as new listing inventory, overall activity, right? So September was only marginally better than normal, but because August was so far below normal, it felt better.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Much like May and June felt quieter after March and April, that whole recency bias thing, right? But the issue with so October, you're right, has been, so sales volume is like 30% higher than normal for the Niagara region. That's what it's on pace to do. And new listing inventory right now is 4% below average. So you got the supply of things you can get below average, and you have demand at 30% higher than normal. That ratio has sort of been maintained all year, which is the only reason that pricing has done what it's done. Because no matter when you've been a buyer, and any buyers in here can probably testify, no matter what month you've been in a buyer, the overall flavor of things has maintained, right?
Yep. And really what it comes down to in the end, the long and short of it, we have an inventory issue. That's it. We're going to struggle with this for who knows how long. There's not enough houses to supply the demand of people. And people can say, oh, it's got to stop. Well, I hate to tell you, they're coming from out of town to buy our houses because they can afford our houses. And unfortunately, Niagara residents can't afford our houses anymore. And it is unfortunate, but it is economic revolution in a sense. And this demand of out-of-town buyers wanting home is so strong right now that it just, I can't see a stop. One other thing too, Pat, I think we're going to talk to Nick about this as well, is you know, you started way back almost. How long you been now, Pat?
I started in 1973. I'm an 82-year-old man. No, 2003.
2003. Okay, so I was 2002. All right, and then, buddy, what was real estate? You helped a first-time home buyer buy a home. You helped a family buy their family home, and that was real estate. That was it. People buying and selling homes for their family. In that 20 years, how many people now own 4, 5, 6, 7 houses?
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons. Real estate now is an investment platform as well. It's not just, I mean, understandable like Nick trying to buy a house for himself with his family. He's fighting against the guys who are buying a house for themselves to prepare for their future as well, just in a different category. And so this real estate market, as far as new investment and all this stuff, that's the other challenge too. And that's going to have to game and play in it as well, because with investors owning so many properties, they can kind of control a market somewhat as well. In the sense of not selling off if the market does decrease and different things like that. So
I get through life with analogies, and that's how I make sense of things in my brain. And so I look at it as like a potluck dinner, and in that pre-2015 market, like I actually pulled up the other day just for fun, call it what you want. In 2011, there was almost 2 listings for every sale in that market. So as a buyer, you had lots of choice. You had time. That was 75 days in the market. There was open houses. You could talk to mom and all that stuff, right? And the big change between that and the 2016 market is there was like 1.1 something listings for sale. And that's what we're at now. And the reason for that is, going back to my analogy thing, if you look at like a potluck dinner, pre-2015, if you had 10 people show up to the potluck dinner, everybody brought food, right? Because they were buying here and they were selling there. So they sold downtown, they bought the North End, they sold the North End, they bought a townhouse, they sold the townhouse, they bought a condo, they moved from Welland to Fun Hill or whatever it was. Yes, we had out-of-towners, but there wasn't busloads of them. So largely when somebody bought, they were feeding the supply chain because they were selling something. So the circle of life, right? Elton John. And so now fast forward to this market, that same potluck dinner analogy, you have 10 people invited, only 5 people show up with food because they're consuming, but what they're supplying, they're selling in Burlington or Kitchener or Oshawa or Woodbridge. And so a bunch of the realtors in here have said, and they're absolutely 100% correct, it's always supply and demand. And the supply thing, how do you feed that demand? I'm not entirely sure, because as long as you have people that come down that say, well, I got $1.5 million in equity. I'm going to go buy 4 detached houses in Niagara. How do you battle against that? Like, not just one person taking their, like you said, taking their family and going to buy a house for their family. They're coming down and they want to have 4 dishes and then not bring anything, right? So that's the challenge. And that, you know, we see more and more talk about it on the government level, provincial, federal, and municipal, as far as supply of housing. I'm not sure.
They acknowledge the problem. If they're acknowledging the problem, there's no solution immediately. So this is not going to stop. One other thing I'd like to just quickly touch on before Nick comes on, maybe we can feel out about this, is remember last year, November, December, very strong months. Why again? Because low inventory and strong demand. It feels like we are going right back into the same cycle we did last year. November, December, low demand, pretty strong, multiple offers. And then we went into January, no houses for sale with incredible amounts of demand. I'm telling you, buddy, we could see that madness come again, especially when agents price a house like they did on Niagara Street. Makes me very sick to my stomach that someone even does that. And that is the problem. We're going to talk.
We'll talk to Nick about that. Yeah.
And, you know, you and I briefly touched on the representation of the market on the MLS. I'm going to, pardon my language, but it's fucked.
Wow.
You heard it here.
That's our first spicy word we've ever had on here.
It is. And I just got to put it out there. It's not fair. It's not fair to the buyers. It's not fair to us as agents. Yeah. How many texts did you get about that house on Street Pack?
I had 3 buyers that wanted to see it immediately.
Yeah. And with the thoughts of, hey, you know what? My budget's a $425, $450. I can get it.
Right.
Yeah. No. That should be.
Yeah, even if I give them 108% of asking, I could still afford that, but it's not going to be 108. It's going to be 120 something.
It's just, and that is the problem.
Yeah.
So that wheels us into a great spot to bring the one and only.
And this is why I love you is what you just said about November and December and January markets. I just wanted to fact check you. And the data is at like November and December of last year were the highest number of sales for those 2 months going back 20 years. So you were spot on that. And then the new listing inventory in January of this year was 3rd last out of the last 10, 15 years. So how about that? All right. So Nick, I have to get him on here and I'm going to figure this out. Here he is. I don't know if this isn't going to kick you out, eh? No.
I don't think so.
Okay. Nick, you have the invite sent to you.
But
look at him.
How are you guys?
Just sitting outside. You know what? I'm going to tell you something really funny. I was thinking about taking this outside too, so I could smoke a couple darts, talk to my buddy.
Love it. You know what? We're not going to have, well, who knows? Global warming's all over. This could be like this in January for all I know, but it is a beautiful day. It is great. I share an office with 2 chatterboxes, so I needed to get out. And so I even got a coffee. I'm good to go.
So,
is that a tall boy, Sean? Are you like?
Buddy.
Oh, okay.
Keeps the houses coming.
So I'll say a few things quick. Nick, I did give you an introduction before you joined us, and thanks for the follow, by the way. It's great. Nick Mirka joined, and then Nick Mirka started following you. So that warms the heart. You couldn't have followed me yesterday or last year.
I thought I was following you a long time ago. I'm like one of the super fans of the B Team on Facebook. Okay, I have a verified like #1 fan on Facebook for the B Team Niagara, and somehow
we don't do a lot on Facebook anymore.
I don't know. Apparently, I like it and I engage, and I'm constantly commenting on your YouTube videos. So apparently, Instagram is something I've never followed. So I apologize.
So I gave a brief introduction about the various hats that you wear as far as relevance here. So you're a dad, you and your lovely wife and your awesome kids have been looking for a house for I'm not sure how long. You're a former realtor. You're in a realtor family. Your dad's Eugene. He's been a realtor for how long?
Oh goodness, as long as I was a fetus, so 35 years.
Yeah. So all those different angles, and you have a sultry voice. So all those things put together, and boom, here you are.
Really? I think it's nasal. My wife says I have a nasally voice, so
No,
I'd rather have Sean's rasp. Sean's got a fantastic voice.
So if you were to summarize so how long have you been looking for a home?
So my wife corrected me. It's been since July 2020.
Okay. So
July 2020.
So 16, 17 months.
Yeah, it's been a journey. So
if you were to use the word again, synopsis, if you were to give us a synopsis of that journey as a buyer, not as a former agent, not above, or I guess as the whole package, but how would you bundle that as far as what you've experienced?
I mean, there's good and bads. Like we put offers in on 12 different properties at this point. I would say there are about 3 or 4 of them which are kind of heartbreakers that we lost. Like our second offer was on a beautiful 4-bedroom 2-story in Portmaster, like on Portmaster in Port Dalhousie.
Yeah.
And my wife and I still talk about that one. It just had a coziness. It had all the things that we wanted without being too lavished or anything like that. So we talk about that one. That's a heartbreaker. But yeah, like and there have been some that we've put offers in on because we're like, we like the home. We don't like what they did here, and here. We'd have to add X, Y, Z. And so we'll put an offer that if we got it for a certain price, we're happy. So when we say 12 offers, I don't look at that as like, oh, everyone's putting in 12 offers. We've strategically done that. And we've put in offers that have still been good, but like I knew they weren't going to be the winning bid. It was like, if it's the winning bid, great. This is all it's worth to us. So, but there have been offers we've swung for the fence, like 155,000 over asking, and we still lose. And those ones are like astounding. Like you're just like, oh, my dad a couple times has been like, look, I love this home for you guys. Waive my commission. Just waive it. Give yourself even an extra edge. So we'd be doing that. He'd be doing that. And then an agent would be like, we're so sorry. Someone went 275 over asking. And you're like, okay, all right. Whatever.
I'm very intrigued by this. I'm very intrigued by your battle out there because I'm not going to lie. Sean's Lot has a threshold of 3 offers and we're good to go. But also, too, I have out of that time period you've been in, I've had 2 buyers this year completely go swing for the fences, and they got the house. You know, they wanted it, and that's that. They didn't care. Other than that, I've been very good. There is holes in the market that, you know, you can kind of squeeze people in, whether, you know, just little lulls, like the summer had some lulls and different things like that. Now, are you looking for something specific, certain locations? You know, I'm really intrigued by this because now, again, you mentioned swinging for the fences on some. What I'm seeing with a lot of, especially, I mean, the challenge is this, okay, Nick, and I think this is our challenge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're locals. We've lived in Niagara our whole life. And here you are, for the fence, putting $150,000 over the asking price, which is like sensational. But then you got out-of-town Joe who comes along, and they don't think like Niagara people. They don't care about market value. They don't think about the future because we're sitting here thinking like, oh my God, like this has got to stop at some point. And I think us as locals, even myself as an agent, like I sold a house on Carlton for $500,000. My seller and I both agreed, it's not worth it. But high fives and handshakes for her, you know?
Yep.
And I think that's the problem is our now us as locals have to kind of somewhat change our mentality a little bit. And I think what you also touched on too is that you've offered on some houses you didn't go guns a-blazing because you felt you had to compromise on what you're getting.
Yeah, so there's a supply and demand, right? And so the issue there is buyers are going to spend a lot of money on things that aren't worth it right now. So for us, like my wife and I, we live in a beautiful neighborhood. We love it. We love our neighbors. Like I honestly almost don't even want to move because I love my next door neighbor so much. But we looked at it, and this was when I kind of saw the housing market just rising. And I'm like, you know what? We should just go and buy that home that when we have teenagers, we're happy in. Like, and my wife and I are kind of sentimental, nostalgic people. So we're like, let's make some memories in that home. Let's have a house that our kids can kind of have some space when they're older, and they could start their life kind of with a little bit more comfort. Like our house is a 3-bedroom bungalow. It's great. It works. But a little bit more space would be nice, right? In saying that though, like people are paying ridiculous amounts for homes that are honestly shitty. Like they're just not, I'll throw more spicy words for you, Pat.
That's two.
That's two.
We're going to lose our endorsements.
They're terrible. And yet people are like throwing it in over because they have probably money to do the renovations. The thing that I've noticed the difference from 2020 to 2021 is now you have Niagara residents also throwing crazy offers. Like we've gotten beat out by locals, and I think they're just like, I'm done, right? Like I need this, I'm desperate. And there is a huge supply and demand. Like 4-bedroom, there's two things. So you have people from out of town moving in, and I loved your Ted Lasso potluck analogy, Pat. Have you been watching Ted Lasso first of all?
I don't have gosh. It's on like
Apple Plus.
Program. Yeah, I can't see
first of all, we need to interrupt this realtor talk to talk about Ted Lasso for just a second, Pat, because you need to rectify that. First of all, this is one of the most heartwarming, greatest shows in the world. And when I was like listening to your potluck analogy, I was like, oh, this is why I love Ted Lasso, because I love Pat Burke. So just do me a favor, watch the show. It's fantastic.
It's on Apple, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Apple Plus.
Okay.
So the other thing too is we had this pandemic, and so a lot of people, their brick and mortar offices are now done. So people need that extra room as well. So even Niagara residents, Toronto, it doesn't matter where you're from, there is like a good part of society who needs more space. We felt we needed it during the pandemic to get away from like family and just kind of breathe a bit. But now it's that. And then you also have, because of those brick and mortar, you're just going to have a whole cultural shift of how people do business, and they need a bigger home. And so even our Niagara homes are great, but you have an 1,100 square foot bungalow and you try and work from that 20 hours a week and have 3 kids, it feels smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Very true. And that's the one thing for St. Catharines. If you're looking at St. Catharines, and I have people looking for a larger 2-story home as well.
Yeah.
So, man, few and far between. I mean, we can all agree our bungalows are plenty in the wonderful world of St. Catharines. But 2-story homes, like think about how many 2-story homes are in the North End. Very small pockets.
Sean, get closer to your Sean.
Yes.
Get closer to your phone.
Why?
Because when you get further, your mic, not you, Nick, your mic's cutting out.
Oh, okay.
He's getting passionate. Let him get passionate.
Guys, no problem. But anyway, so I do see that, and it's the challenge. And I mean, I always go out, and what I'm seeing is, like you said, Nick, January, February of this year, you could have had the biggest piece of crap, and no matter what, it was selling. It was selling. And I hear you, like garbage home selling. But once we got into spring, those junky homes weren't selling. Buyers realized they had options, right? Their brain regresses instantly when it's a supply and demand issue. They're just like, I need something. So I think there's a lot of psychology playing through this. And then as soon as they see options, their head reverts back to, whoa, I don't have to compromise as much as I was a couple months ago. But I do now understand your pain if you're going after the two-story homes. It is tough, and people are going nuts.
Well,
that's go back.
Here's the other thing. When you look statistically, the number of new listings over last, if you look at 4-month chunks this year, the last 4 months have been dry. So July, August, September, October, 5% under, 10% under, +3 and -4% for new listing inventory. So when you compare that to averages, right? That's 4 months in a row that laid an egg. And then when you look at the number of sales, up 11%, up 11, up 16, and up 26 to 30. October's not done yet. So that's 4 consecutive months. So there's a compounding effect there, right? 4 consecutive months. So you got your Nick Mirkas, you've got busloads of Nick Mirkas out there right now. And as opposed to earlier this year, even though the number of sales were up, 60% more than normal, at least new listings were up 40% more than normal. So everything was elevated. But right now with listing inventory being so squished, but it's not just a blip, that's 4 months in a row. And spoiler alert, November is going to be no different, nor is December. So we're gonna have that back.
November and December is going to be worse. Like I said, through this, we're going to be going compressed inventory, and then going into January with nothing. And then it's going to start. Listings come up. It's going to be kind of hyper intensified. But I want to remind everyone, and Nick as well, for those who are thinking of buying a house, if this cycle kind of goes the way it's going, remember what happened in March of last year. Inventory came, and the super crazy bidding slowed down, and it became a little. So just remember, spring will yield tons of inventory. If you want to get caught up in November, in December, January, and February, and go blow your brains to get a house, that's fine. What if you're a little patient and wait it out? Not to mention, if summer is anything like the summer we just had, fantastic time to buy. Now, Pat, we kind of talked about this the other day too, and Nick, I'm noticing a little bit of kind of buying cycles per se. I noticed that summer houses under the $800,000 mark kind of were a little more balanced, kind of sat around. You had opportunities. You didn't have to maybe compete on some, or if you did compete, but that above 800, like you're talking about, like the Port Masters, everything like that, that market was boomtown. It didn't make a difference. Country properties in Prairie, anything around that 800 plus, they were pulling in huge, huge money. So if you're a seller, I think if you have that country property or pool and high-end home, sell in summer. But it's looking like if you got that $600,000-$700,000 house, sell in November, December, January, and February. But if you're a buyer looking for that type of house, maybe wait until summer. So these are all kind of things. It feels like you could have a cycle of what happened this year again. Yeah. Now, Nick, you own your home, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in a relative situation though as well. I mean, you're buying when the market goes up, your house goes up, and that's that.
Yeah, I've had some people go, you should sell first, but just given there have been weeks that we have felt a shift in the heat. Right. Yep. And that's the issue. You don't want to sell and be like, well, we have this. And then all of a sudden the house comes up and you feel you are desperate at that point. I think that some people, that's what's happening.
That's a big factor.
Yeah. So I sold my house and now it's like, well, I wouldn't spend $950 on this home, but I'm going to spend $950 because we'll be homeless in 2 months. So I'm desperate now. And my wife and I were not desperate. And we also want to make a good financial decision and a good move, and also neighborhood move, all that stuff. Right. So we're wise and picky at the same time. So there's a reason that we're not here, because we're not willing to be idiots with it.
So, a question for you, Nick, on pricing then. As a buyer, so you're on realtor.ca or you're getting the feed from your dad or whatever. When you see a price, back in the old days, you saw a price. Our market forever was like 98, 99% of asking was the board average. You put a house up for 325, we could say to our sellers, look, based on this, you're probably going to sell between 314 and 319.5. Hooray, and off we go, right?
It's so true.
And now
there's an art.
Now there's a lack of predictability breeds anxiety, which breeds fear and bad decisions and emotions and exhaustion and frustration, and then tap out, right? And so I'm curious for you as a buyer, when you see a house with a price, what do you interpret that price as? Like when you see a price, what are your thoughts? Do you put any weight to it, or then do you have to do your own mental CMA on the property?
I mean, I come at this entirely different. I used to do CMAs all the time. Sometimes with my dad, he still asks for my 2 cents on things.
Cool.
I feel like I could probably price out houses still like I was an active realtor if you give me an hour with the Matrix.
Done.
And I'd be fine. Done.
I've got a bunch for you.
So that's tough. I think the challenge is, so I don't look at pricing list price at all, because, and this is something I actually am curious what you two would think, because you two take a responsibility of, you've always felt customer care is super important. So client relations is super important. You're both from here, from Niagara. You love being from here, so you want to serve your clients well, but you also want to serve the community well. And you have realtors out of town and local. There's a lot of local guys doing this too, who are, in my opinion, irresponsibly pricing homes, which are causing anxiety for buyers, improper, like, if you're a realtor, you don't need to brag that you sold the home quick or over list price these days. That to me is not, that's a given.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you walk and you can go to the bathroom. It's not something to brag about in this climate.
Correct.
Oh shoot.
I think did his phone conk out? Look at the action shot of him.
I think he maybe ran out of juice, maybe.
And so my next question for him, and he'll jump back on, is this one listing I've got. I had numerous phone calls yesterday from every interested party asked me one question: what do they actually want? Because nobody knows there's no sideline or end zone to the game right now. So, I have a buyer that called me and she said, I really like the house, but how much do they want? A buyer, just a random person from Niagara Falls, called me and said, but how much do they really want? Because their expectation in their mind is list price plus. And that's a huge, that's been the reason, and you said the other day, the only reason that mentality exists is because of a systemic, not relentless, but somewhat strategic underpricing. And so somebody sees a house, and that's a problem for those of us who list a price, like Naomi's on here, she's a responsible pricer, who list a house at where it's fair value. You almost, sometimes it puts you in an awkward spot, because if people see fair value and add on 100 grand, they're like, well, that's overpriced. I didn't ask that much. I asked this much, right?
Yes, it's a challenge. It's a problem. And don't get me wrong. I understand also from the other side of the coin, we are here to try and get our seller the best amount of money possible. Fine, fair enough. The list it low, sell it high does work in certain circumstances like that. The challenge I'm seeing out there, though, is there is a little bit of a sweet spot when you do the list it low, sell it high. There is agents exponentially listing it so low that they are doing multiple offers and selling it for quite a good number over the asking price. But in my honest opinion, I still don't think they got their seller enough because they listed it so low.
Right.
I ran into the same challenge, Pat. I like to price to the market. I have a listing on Walnut Park. I price it more appropriate to the market, maybe even a little higher. And buyers were thinking that. Now, after talking to you the other day, I realized buyers must be thinking to themselves, they're like, well, if this is here, they probably want exponentially above it, so it's not worth it to me. And that's a problem. that we're creating this whole mess of what's going on. And it makes it challenging for buyers. It makes it challenging for us as agents. It's challenging. Like that house, it makes me sick of myself. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, like the price is that low, and you know, who knows what the mentality is there. Out of town agent, didn't know the market. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what goes on there, but it's something else.
I think that's Nick, if you're there, I tried to invite you and it said that you're unable to join. So if you ask to join, I'll pop you back in. But I think that piece of it, and I get it. I've talked to agents who don't like listing properties. They'd rather deal with buyers because they find listings extremely stressful. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think sometimes, I know we realtors get a bad rap and whatever, fine. But I don't think people understand the weight when you have a bunch of listings, the weight on your shoulders, your mental load, because it is so knife edge as far as strategy. Room for error is like in the old days when you had 87 days in the market, man, you can.
Oh, Pat, my first 5 years in real estate, I did not want a listing. I wanted to work with buyers. You had properties to choose from. Yeah. Sellers were like every week, why is the property not selling, Sean? Why is the property not? I didn't want that. I love the buyers, you know, over the years I've seen working with sellers and this and that, but I'm not going to lie. I put an extreme amount of pressure on myself. And don't get me wrong, there is a little bit of luck from the house gods when you have a listing. And, you know, we all want to perform and get the best for our sellers, at least the appropriate realtors who are in it to win it. You know, that's what we want. We want the best for our sellers. We want to perform for our sellers. And, you know, you do the 48-hour hold offers. And, like, I've been in hold offers where I'm like, oh, my goodness, I'm not going to get any offers. Oh, this is going to be eggs in my face. And then all of a sudden, the 24th hour, something comes in. But it is very stressful, especially earlier when the shift kind of happened. That's where it got really stressful because sellers had their expectations and this and that. You know, now the shift we're going, I hate to say it, like you're just going to see tons of listed low, sell it high. As soon as you go to super short inventory, that's where everyone just regresses to. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm going to do it coming in 2 weeks. I got a semi and I'm putting it up at $4.99, you know, and it works for people. They don't have to buy. This is an investment they're selling, and their expectation is, Sean, if I get 500, that's great. Anything above is a bonus, right?
Well, so that's the key, though, right? Is if you say to somebody, okay, I'm going to list your house at just throwing out an example at $399. If I bring you $399, are you happy? No, we'd never talk to you again. Okay, what do you actually want? We actually want X. Okay, well then let's strategize around that number. Right?
100%. That's it. You can't hedge your bets off this listed low, sell it high for a seller expectation of what they should get. I mean, I don't know. Listen, if everyone started pricing the houses appropriately to the market, it would really change the game quite exponentially. Number one, you would have a lot of buyers just pushed out of the market, therefore decreasing some of the demand, you know, and it's interesting, Pat. The truth is, it's referring to the wild, wild west.
Cool, Modi.
I think everyone should just take a nice little holiday till spring, and then there you go. The inventory will come aplenty, and it's good to go. But for those of you who are actively looking to buy right now, be cautious. Don't get caught up in it. You know, if you're rushing out because of interest rates are not going to significantly jump exponentially. Next year, they are calling for 3 rate hikes in the year. And, is that Nick?
Yeah.
It will be.
Now, Nick,
what am I doing wrong here?
I don't know. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to bring you in because otherwise it would be awkward to leave it that way.
Oh, he's got some issues.
He's
I'm like,
his.
I feel like I'm an old man here. Like, what is,
God, I'm old and on this chat because I
yeah.
technologically.
Okay, I'm just going to do this, guys, and I'm going to put you.
Hey,
Actually see you. There we go. Is this good? Can
no,
you see me?
you're
No,
frozen.
I'm
It's
frozen.
it looks like your Tinder shot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You got 3 seconds, then I'm gonna fire you.
Oh, you're a delay. That's hilarious.
I'm delayed.
You're delayed. I'm Delot.
Ha! There we go.
Oh,
Am I here now?
no,
Guys, that was, no?
no.
Am I
I
here?
can hear you though, so let's do an audio file.
We can hear
Cool.
you.
All right. All right, we can hear me. Sorry, guys. I have
So-
no idea what's going on in life.
So you set up a very good, and I think we covered it, preamble or,
Yeah.
or discussion on the faith that a buyer can put, or the comfort level they can put in when they see a listing price
For sure.
is eroded right now. And so, no swear words, but Shawnee had a pretty good rant, and I think we got our point across. I guess going forward, what Sean said, I 100% echo, is I don't see this crystal ball time. I don't see this market dynamic changing until we get into February. We've had really good Januaries before. I'm not so sure if we'll get there this January or not, but I think we're gonna have to wait until the good old fashioned spring market before we see a bump in inventory. And since there's no indication that the only thing that would affect the demand is a killer winter, right? Because you got less people hopping down the highway. Oh, it's snowstorm, I'm canceling my appointment, that sort of thing. But other than that, I don't see any reason that the demand would change. And again, with the proposed interest rate hikes, there's rumors that the first one might be in January. And somebody mentioned earlier, banks have already raised rates anyway. So that psychological factor, 100%. Same thing with gas. I saw lineups of cars down Lakeshore Road to get gas at $1.37 yesterday.
Yeah.
And so when you multiply that by the average car, what is that? They're doing that to save $6 or $7. Yeah, I'm not saying $6 is worthless, but the psychological impact of holy crap, it's not $1.47, which is $1.50 in my mind. Let's line up for 20 minutes to get gas. So that the bank rates next year will be interesting to see the impact in that. But I think the demand piece is still going to kick the crap out of the supply. And we need, until we get to February, March, I don't see that changing. So for buyers,
the thing with the rates, Pat, is all that's going to do is push more out-of-towners into our market because now they can't afford their market.
affordability, yeah.
It's just like that. We now have the perpetual place of affordability where people will just come, buy our properties because we can afford our market. A young kid from Hamilton, rates go up. Oh, well, that $700,000 house I wanted to buy in Hamilton is on Barton Street, and I don't want to live there, and I can't afford it. Oh, wait, I can take my $700,000 down to St. Catharines, though, and get myself a detached home or a pretty nice semi-detached house. And, that's the unfortunate thing is, and these out-of-towners, I mean, we sit here and talk about locals. A lot of them are locals now. A lot of them have been here for 10 years and this and that. Like, I mean, our market has drastically changed. It's not just the nice little community of people we used to know and see every day. There is a wide range of various different people here from out-of-town markets now call Niagara home. So I like to say, hey, they're locals, transplants, but this community in the region is growing exponentially. The good news is we have land. And we have opportunities for growth, and there will be tons of growth. Like, Fort Erie is exciting.
Yeah.
Fort Erie, boom, Now, Nick, do rates play anything in your mind right now in the home buying process?
I mean, I like to deem myself as somewhat financially responsible. So like if rates go up and you just make a smart decision. Even when I sold real estate, if you were pre-approved for a certain amount, I always advise my buyers never to go near that amount, just to make sure your month to month is comfortable and you can build a cushion and you could invest in things other than your mortgage. So it doesn't necessarily play into effect for me. I know my wife sometimes feels that kind of pressure when mortgage rates or rumors come up. Like you'll bump into a realtor and they'll be like, oh, the market's slowing down. I'm like, well, we just had 3 offer situations in the past 3 months that tell me the market isn't slowing down, at least from the 4-bedroom 2-story style, right?
No,
so
that's all year. No, you're right. And that's what I kind of touched on is kind of seasonal buying or little holes in the market. There is little kind of spots at certain price points that did kind of soften a little bit. And that's funny when you see that the realtor's probably saying, you know, Nick, during summer, it did feel like it softened on certain price points, like the under $800,000. But then if you're offering on the 2-story, that was guns blazing during the summer. So, you know, it's just, and therefore, again, hard for you to understand as a buyer, Nick, because you're kind of getting mixed messages. And the message is somewhat truthful in the sense that, hey, I put up a house at $499 in the summer. You know, I put that house up in January. I was getting $600,000. You know, I was maybe getting $525 in the summer. So
yeah, I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt too when it comes to what people's experiences are, because everyone's going at different price points, different neighborhoods. Pools, when I sold real estate, were kind of like a wash. Like it didn't add value. Now it adds massive value. You even see pool installs have doubled this past year, which is insane. So you take it all with a grain of salt. I think in this climate too, like I feel bad for buyers, but I also feel bad for buyer reps, because you're the ones going through the heartache, and you have to have your finger on the pulse, like with everything, because that Wild West mentality is there. And you also want to protect your buyer. So do you want to put this crazy offer because I think this will get the house? And then you as a buyer rep, like how do you do that in good conscience, going, yeah, the home's going to be worth it, right? We've seen huge inclines in what homes are selling for, and you're like, as Niagara residents, you're like, is this semi worth $500,000? Because I 3 years ago, absolutely not. So
my buddy Ginny from Royal LePage, she was the first one I heard say it, but she calls it your best no regrets offer.
That's great.
I always said to clients, if your offer wins and I call you and tell you one and your first reaction is, oh, then that's a problem, right? Let's talk about that right now. But if your offer wins and I call you and say hooray and I, all this good stuff and you're excited, let's rock. But the upward pressure on price right now with lack of inventory stuff makes it's a daunting road for buyers and buyer reps. And like Naomi said too, 4 bedrooms, especially in the North End, they're such a small, I don't know what was going on back in the 70s. Everybody was scared of them or what, but there's so few of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough road out there.
Oh yeah. It is, but you gotta, I find from a buyer standpoint that no regrets thing is so important to kind of keep in mind. Like there isn't, we've lost out on homes and we've been told like we were second and it was 80,000 over. Got it. Yeah. And we're like, you know what? We wouldn't have paid that.
No,
we wouldn't want to do that, and we feel good.
Sometimes, Nick, when you actually do find the sale price and you're like, and I've had it happen too, where, and I always prepare, I'm the same thing, no regrets, where but I explain to them where I'm like, hey, listen, if you put this offer in at this price and you get the house, you do not care what any of the offers were. And don't ask me what the next highest offer was, because I don't know. And if I do, I'm not telling you. You got it. And if you don't get the house and someone paid $2,000 more than you, you don't care, because that was your number and that's that. And that's it. And if you go in with that mentality, and then you're right, there's times I get told, oh yeah, Sean, sorry man, it sold for 120 over your offer, and then you laugh to yourself. That's an easy pill for the buyer to swallow, because they're like, well, crazy guy can have it then. Perfect. We'll just go on to the next one.
Mhm. Hey, I have a question for you guys. Do we have time? Can I have a
Yeah,
question, Pat?
we got 5 minutes.
Cool, sweet. So I've noticed sometimes like there are a lot of buyer reps who are waiting last minute to even show that their buyers have interest. Like I almost now, when my wife and I have put an offer, we're usually the first to register. I try and get our letter in before the offer. So it's like, hey, just so you know, we're really interested. This is who we are. Can you give this to your buyer now so they know that we're going to be presenting something in 2 days, right? First, I just think that's respectful. And I also think that that's just kind. But in every time, like it'll be like cutoff point at 11. So an agent will be like, we have 5 offers. We're like, cool. And then all of a sudden at 11:30, like 3 more came in. And then we're presenting. And then they're like, 2 more came in. And like from a principal standpoint, like as a listing rep, you're like, well, look, guys, I'm trying to say cutoff. I need time to get these offers together to have a non-messy presentation with my client, and you are like, you have 3 more offers come in at the last minute. Like, how do you guys deal with that? Like, obviously you have to present them because they are hot offers probably, but you have these agents who are, and this is I think what is the biggest thing why it's important to have a good rep who knows what's going on, is like agents who respect the rules and respect everybody involved. A lot of listing reps that have these have been really good with being like, hey, we've had 3 different people ask these questions. I've compiled them all in a list and giving them to everybody who is not putting a home inspection in to let you know the age of the roof, the furnace, all this stuff. And I'm like, there have been some realtors I've been super impressed with. Terry Cox is one who is fantastic in this communication. Best communicator, well, not best, but one of the best communicators, and just showed every buyer respect. Like he was very clear with it. So how do you guys deal with that when you have, people who are trying to do the right thing and be fair to everybody, and then other ones who are like, I'm going to sneak one by, or I'm going to list a home for $1 and see, who murders each other Squid Game style.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, first off, as a listing agent, that's the most annoying thing ever when agents start throwing offers in at the last second. Number 2, typically it's usually out-of-town agents. They don't even call you and tell you they have an offer. You're sitting with your clients, you're going through the offer, and then next thing you know, you get an offer. Totally annoying, mucks up the whole presentation. Because you're right, then I have to go and let all the other agents know, hey, I got this last offer. Does anyone want to improve this and that? If you want to be fair to everybody. So, I mean, and the thing is, everyone asks, well, Sean, if offers are to be in at 6 and you're presenting at 7 and an offer comes in at 6:30, why are you dealing with that offer? Easy answer. I represent the seller. If I had your listed and another offer came in and you were the seller, would you not want to see it? As soon as you explain it that way, then they're like, you're right. Okay, fair enough. And then I say, do I like the way this goes down? Absolutely not. But unfortunately, the listing agent has their onus to the seller.
Totally. Totally. I get it.
And honestly, Nick, listen, I'm going to tell you, and Pat, you'll agree, and we're not going to make it a really big, but the behavior out there this year with agents has just been very unattractive. In all my years of real estate, one thing this year that's kind of saddened me the most is just some of the behaviors, and don't get me wrong, there is phenomenal agents out there who do wonderful, wonderful things for their client. But this high intensity aggression in the market, this wave of out-of-town realtors who've been accustomed to this market for 10 years, way before, with all the tricks and the trades of doing different kind of manipulating things, it makes that the challenge, Nick, is if everyone just played the game fairly and just did it right, it is what it is. But it's this other aspect that, and like you said, a guy like Pat or a guy like yourself, been in the business 10 years, I'm a client-based mentality. I want what's my client. It's not about me. If we don't sell your house, don't worry, we will. If you don't get this one, I'm not coaching my buyers just to put them in the house because I want to get the sale. want it to work out right for my buyers. And I think that's where, you know, some of these out of town agents want to come in like the wind and just kind of get their people to throw a big number at it right away, so we can just kind of get it over with for the day. I think some agents out there might be a little off, but you know, there is a lot of out there. I do want to put that out there, but there is some.
There are. Those out-of-town agents are the ones who use Google Maps for their photographer?
Yeah. Oh, buddy, not only that. Listen, look how many people are taking pictures of the houses with their phones. Oh, like.
Yeah, but it's going to sell, right? So I find like listing reps, the biggest thing is it's going to sell. So it's more about client care. Just being good. I think that listing reps more than anything just own a responsibility to the community to treat people fairly throughout the process and get their client the best price, right? Like it's I think that's what great realtors are doing. That there have been we've lost out, and the realtors have been tactful and amazing about it, and then other ones are, you know, a little messy, but that's fine. Yeah.
You know, everyone's trying to work through this. It's wild, but it's what it is. Low inventory winter. There we go.
Before we wrap up, and I'm not one to sit around and around a campfire and dream of the old days with Picture 5 and MLS books and faxing our new listings to the board office, but I think whenever there's drastic change, there's growing pains, right? And I think if you look at our market, and since the 2016 market, but really right now, I've never seen more. We had a listing, every showing except for one was an out-of-market agent. And I'm not going to say GTA because they get a bad rap. It's not just GTA. It's, you know, you get people driving down from Barrie and Kitchener and everywhere else, right?
Everywhere.
And so I think that's a growing pain of, you know, back when our average price was $383,000, it wasn't worth it. So they'd refer people down. And now that the prices are where they're at, you know, average sale price year to date for the Niagara region is at $702,000. Spoiler or newsflash. So now it's worth to drive from Barrie. Not for me. I don't go past Grimsby. As soon as I start to get, my wheel starts to get shaky, right? And that goes back to what you said, Nick, is client care, knowledge of the market, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I really just chalk it up to growing pains. Is why do you get an offer at 6:30 when presentation time's at 6? Well, if I just drove 2.5 hours back to my office through traffic, and I'm doing this, you know, multiple times a week. I talked to a guy the other day who's a great guy, awesome, lovely conversation, but he had just shown a house the day before in Kitchener. He was up in Barrie. He's literally taking the whole OREA thing to heart and driving all over the place. That's people's decision, but I don't know. The byproduct of that is going to be sloppiness, because if you're in your car for 4 hours a day and you're just firing things out the windows, there's going to be you know, not great symptoms of that, right? And part of that is you get 5 offers and then you get 4 more after the cutoff date. And like you said too, without a phone call, without warning or anything, they just show up. It's not the way it's supposed to be, but it happens.
No, yeah, that's just laziness or deliberate tactics.
Yeah. A lot of times, you know what, the worst thing is, you know, we want what's best for a seller. You got all your offers. You got one that's really just taking the cake, but this other agent keeps telling you, no, hold on, I'm bringing you an offer. You wait, you hold up the process for this last offer, and it's the worst one of the bunch anyways.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember one time we were waiting, and then he comes in SOP, and I'm like, you could have just said it from the beginning. It's, you know, I got agents, well, our offer was in already, it's supposed to go down. I'm like, oh, you know. So yeah, the end of the factor is, you know, we can't. Personally, I think people coming into an out-of-town market, I will never go to Burlington and sell houses. I don't know the market. I don't know what the level of competition is there. Obviously, it's competitive everywhere. And, you know, I will just never leave my market to go take buyers to houses. It's just, I am not the right person for the job. I don't know. I thoroughly believe you should use a realtor who understands the market, location, and everything like that. And that's part of the challenge, though. And the thing is, with Hamilton, Their market now is 50% out-of-town agents. 50%.
Oh, wow.
And as all of these out-of-town agents come with their buyers, our market's going to have to change to the point where potentially over 50% of our properties are going to be listed with out-of-town and not even locals, because they're going back to their old agent or all these other different things that are cooking. So it'll be interesting, but I'm very excited because I do love the Niagara region. Nick loves the Niagara region. Pat loves the Niagara region. It'll be very exciting to see what happens with our region.
I feel like the band just started playing. The curtains start to close. Hey,
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. And I think Sean and I are both on the same page. As a buyer, you just stay low, stay in the weeds, keep an eye out on the horizon. And I think the next 4 months are going to play out. And then once we get past, into the middle of winter, our expectation, if you look historically, if you go back 20 years, the numbers show it. You'll see an improvement. And the biggest byproduct or the biggest factor is going to be where's the demand? Is it still escalated? Is it easing back because of winter or a rate hike or whatever else it is? So that's going to be the piece. But really, thank you for even though you've been frozen the last bit.
That was great. That was great, man.
Can you not? You still can't see me?
No,
I'm frozen. You just have voice. Okay, all right, that's fun. Yeah, no, I think that's good. That's good advice. My wife and I were considering like breeding Labradoodles and offering Labradoodle puppies as a way of with every offer. But if I feel like patience may be less work and effort. So I'll stick with that.
That is zigging when everybody else is zagging, man. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Cool, guys. This is fun.
Weekend.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And all you realtors out there, keep being awesome. And we'll see you later.
Okay.
Peace out.
Ciao.
Cheers, guys. See ya. Bye.